Good afternoon. So happy to see you all of here. Thank you so much for joining us for the first marquee event of the FLO Startup Cell this year. Before we dive into today's event, I just want to take a moment acknowledging something which we all are proud of as Indians. Any guesses? In the past few weeks, we have watched our country respond to real challenges, and it has reminded us of sheer courage, resilience, and strength of our armed forces or our Indian Army, whom we are so proud of. While we are here building our dreams, there are people out there safeguarding our right to do so. We honor that with deep respect and gratitude. And while they protect our borders, I also want to take a moment to acknowledge you, the women in this room. Many of you are warriors in your own right, fighting battles, fighting deadlines, fighting to launch something bold, fighting balancing the ideas, the families, dreams, and doubt, showing up every day without armor, but with ambition and purpose. So girls, this is what the event is all about today. Build to inspire. We are here to build to inspire by being bold, by being real, and by lifting each other as we grow. And of course, all right, a warm welcome to our past chair, Rati and Jayashri. Thank you so much. Your leadership continues to inspire us. And of course, our founder, Shashank, who will be joining us, and the Fundable family, Richa and Hi Arjun, who are there with us. And of course, the warm welcome to all the FLO members who are present there. Your energy, your smile, and your claps definitely will make this session eventful. This event wouldn't have been possible if we did not have our presenting partner who has sponsored us to build the event to life. Marzi by Primus is the first sponsor. Before we play the video of that, I just want to let you know what Marzi by Primus is. Marzi by Primus is a community-driven lifestyle platform solving for health and happiness of the active aspirational Indians over the age of 55. With a collection of service offering like travel, home improvement, community events, learning and more, Marzi is all about 55 plus Indians who wish to live their life with joy, independence, and purpose. The Marzi platform redefines aging as a phase of growth, exploration, active engagement, and aims to increase health span and reduce the process of aging. Can we have the video of that?
What if you were not meant to slow down once you turn 55, but instead move faster, freer, bolder? What if you could live life unapologetically, without limits? What if strength wasn't measured in decades, but in choices? What if connection didn't fade, but only grew deeper with time? What if your bucket list got longer, more adventurous, but not shorter? What if this was the decade where your creativity finally ran wild? What if every day felt like a beginning, not the ending? What if you could choose to ride not into the sunset, but into your prime? Because when you choose active aging, it isn't about slowing down. It's about taking control, choosing adventure over routine, possibility over pause, and a life that excites you every single day. That's why we created Marzi, an active aging platform built for those who refuse to sit still. Whether it's reigniting old passions, traveling to places you've always dreamed of, or crafting a lifestyle that keeps you engaged and inspired. Mazi, choose active aging.
Now we have another presenting sponsor, Anand Sweets. Have anyone heard of Anand Sweets? Perfect. So let me tell you something about Anand Sweets. It started in 1988 with a small shop in Commercial Street. Does anyone know that? Yes. Perfect. So today, Anand Sweets is one of India's most beloved names in premium Indian sweets and savories. Rooted in tradition, yet always evolving, Anand believes that food is not a food, but it is a symbol of joy, togetherness, emotion, and of course, sugar. From festive classics to signature creations, every item is crafted in Bangalore with love, authenticity, and flavor. With 15 stores across the city and 5+ airport outlets in Kochi, Ahmedabad, and Bangalore, Anand brings real Anand in terms of sugar wherever you go. Through their restaurant now, Purani Delhi, they have brought the old Delhi's flavors to life in modern setting, from chaats to full thalis. Known for their packaging, curated spaces, and warm service, Anand Sweets continues to be setting the gold standard. Can we roll the video? थोड़ी सी क्लैप हो जाए स्पॉन्सर्स के लिए, उसकी वजह से हम हैं. I forgot to introduce myself. Hi, I am Mitali, leading the Startup Vertical Cell this year, part of the FLO National Initiative. The mission of my cell is simple. It is for anyone who is building something, a startup, a mindset, a movement, maybe even something that doesn't have a name yet. So if you're building or scaling, this space is definitely for you. And I'm not doing this alone. I have the best team behind me. Wherever my team is, Shreya Agarwal, founder, Under 14 fashion brand; Kirti, director, SK Labels; Ranjana, founder, Canvas and Couch podcast, where real conversations spark; Bhavika, founder of By and Large; and Grishma Reddy, director, Concord Group. They have been the real magic behind that happens in the startup cell today. We have a vision. This year vision, we have 4 eyes. Our theme is rooted in these 4 eyes. Does anyone know these 4 eyes? Come on. Inspire, invest, innovate, and impact. So we will inspire ideas, invest in growth, innovate for the future, and create real tangible impact this year. Later this month, we are also launching our mentorship program, which will be culminated into pitching in 2006 with a grand conclave. So stay tuned with us and please join the Startup Cell for all the updates. Now, the flow of the event as per today. There will be a 10-minute open mic from our founders. We will have Tushar from HealthifyMe and Shashank from Practo. No pitch decks, just stories of belief, doubt, purpose, perseverance. Then a fireside chat hosted by our own chairperson, Dekyi, warm, honest, and fun. And during the chat, Dekyi might uncover some few hidden talents of our founders, So stay tuned, followed by the candid audience question and answers. So now, without holding you back any longer, over to you, Bhavika. Please come.
Thank you, Mitali. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Bhavika Vadwani, part of the Startup Vertical Committee at FLO Bangalore. It's an honor to welcome our first speaker, someone who didn't just spot a problem, he re-engineered an entire industry around the solution. Shashank is the co-founder and CEO of Practo, India's leading digital healthcare platform, a service that millions now rely on to find doctors, book appointments, and manage their medical records in one seamless flow in over 22 countries, improving health and outcomes through technology. He is just not a founder. He's a system thinker, a healthcare futurist, and someone deeply committed to improving lives through tech. Please join me in welcoming Shashank to the stage.
A very good evening. Thank you, Vicky Flo, for having me here. Very excited to be amongst all of you today this evening. Thank you so much for taking the time out to come in and hear the story of mine, Practo's, and also Tushar, a very good friend of mine, and HealthifyMe's. So let me start by just asking you to imagine a small story. So I walk into this hospital, and I meet this promoter doctor right in the heart of HSR, not too far away from here. And this doctor who's running the hospital was very proud of his work. He showed me the latest video of a surgery he did, a very complicated, I think, shoulder replacement. Quite, not a very pretty video, but nonetheless a very important one. He also told me about how 73 insurance companies had, enlisted him and his hospital. But he had a complaint. He said, "No, Practo doesn't have me on, Practo. Why is that? I don't feature on the top." I felt, okay, my team must have missed something. Here is something I can take back to my office and tell my team on how I can improve my processes. So I said, "No worries, doctor." I quickly looked on Google, and when I searched orthopedic, now when you do this, you find it. When you search orthopedic in HSR, the first 3 results, 2 are his results. And he was a 4.9. 4.9 with 1,000 plus reviews, right? So I said, "Oh my God, Practo must have really slipped up." So I told him, "Don't worry, we'll get on it. Can I just take a quick tour of the hospital just to get a sense of what the hospital is?" He said, "Sure," and he got his assistant to take me around. The first place that I went into was the supposedly ICU. And now just remind HSI layout, the startup, it was right opposite a park right in the center of the city. I go into the what's supposed to be the ICU, and what I find there is that there is no crash cart. Now, crash cart, for those who don't know technical terms, is what people use when they're in a quick need for medicines when somebody is crashing, hence the word crash cart. There were no defibrillators. Now, what are defibrillators? All of us might have seen, House MD, you'll see these 2 things that people pump up. That's called a defibrillator. Usually, hospitals have 2 of them, one as a backup and one as the primary one. This particular ICU had 0. So I was shocked. I was like, you did a surgery this morning and you have no defibrillators, forget the backup and not even one of them. I said, this is very odd. And I went into the OT. And now when I walked into the OT, I saw, and what was probably the image is still stuck in my head. I saw 2 live lizards inside the OT, right? Now, just to let you know, operation theaters are supposed to be extremely sterile. Okay, so you're supposed to have HEPA filters which purify the air so that even air infection, through the air, you don't have microorganisms getting into your surgery wounds. You're supposed to have C-arms which ensure that there's no shadow of the doctor when he's right above the patient doing a surgery. Bunch of medical terms, not a lizard. Okay. And so that's when I realized, Practo had not screwed up. Because whenever we onboard a hospital, unlike Google, we actually go and audit the hospital, right from the ground floor to the top floor, to check what the hospital really has. We check what instruments they have, what equipment do they have, what sterilization processes do they have. And if the hospital is 4 and below, we don't onboard them. And only 30% of Bangalore hospitals can be onboarded on our platform. We are the only company globally that actually physically goes and audits hospitals or clinics and then onboards them. Again, globally. Let me tell you the second story, and I won't gross you out anymore. The second one happens in Whitefield. How many of you near Whitefield? Wathur Road is a prime location? Yeah? Adarsh Palm Meadows. Yes. Prime location. Now, I'm not going to tell you the name of these doctors. You can guess them yourself. On that main road, I again was on Google, I was on Practo, and I saw that there's this clinic and a dental clinic which had a 4.9 rating. And this clinic on Google had a 5 rating, on Practo had a 4.9 rating. And I said, okay, I need to go, I must meet this doctor. Because we had launched a program where the best clinics actually come up on Practo. And this doctor's listing was way below on Practo. So when I went to the clinic, I saw what was probably the most amazing, visual. I walked into this white clinic, rock music playing, really, good vibes. I saw this really good husband and wife couple, doctors. I think I might give out too many clues. I'm trying not to identify them. Very sweet people, very warm and welcoming ones. And rock music in dental clinics is really not the usual thing. So I walk in, I'm super excited. I'm like, what a clinic. Something Practo has done wrong not to bring them up in our listing. So I walk in, I sit with this doctor. He tells me about how he's treating patients so well. That's why the ratings are 5, 4.9 on Practo. His gold medals were literally falling on my face because I was sitting right there. He had gold medals, from his college days, and it was right next to me, and it was like literally falling on me. I'm like, what has Practo done? Why haven't we been able to, move him up our listing? So same conversation happens. He's super proud of his work. I say, doctor, we have done something wrong. I will fix it. But before that, can I take a look at your center? So I go around the center. And when I go around the center, I notice the sterilization room. It's a small room that none of us as patients ever visit in a dental clinic. It's hidden away in a corner. So I go when it was dirty, and it's a dirty clinic. That's okay. What I said, we'll give them the feedback. They'll clean it up. Should not be a problem. It's a half-an-hour process. But then when I just looked around the sterilization room, I noticed something odd. I said, doctor, usually for sterilization, there are something called UV cabinets, this blue color device where you keep all the instruments. You also used to have plastic covers where you keep all the instruments in them for sterilization purposes. And most importantly, there's an autoclave machine which warms up or basically ensures that any instrument going to your mouth is completely sterile. And this is right at the peak of COVID. I didn't find it. I said, okay, where is this? How do you sterilize then if you don't have this? And that doctor pointed me to the corner of that sterilization room where there was a rice cooker. Okay. Adarsh Palm Meadows person in the room. Yeah. So right opposite. Okay. You have a rice cooker. Okay. That is responsible for the sterilization of those equipments. Now, what's the problem here? The problem is that if you're going to sterilize your equipment using a rice cooker, HIV, forget COVID, are kind of bacteria or infections or viruses which will not be killed. So if you are going in and a patient before you has been, for whatever reason, had HIV, it's going to be a clear transmission. It's just a dental treatment, but it's very intimate, right? Because actually there's saliva transfer and blood transfer. And so the reason why I do what I do and what brings me joy is to go out in the world and find these problems. Now, why was this doctor rated 4.9 or 5 was my question. And I found that answer. When I asked him that, hey, you have all these really bad, I'm pretty sure your quality is not up there. So how come you have a 4.9 or 5? Or even on Practo. So his answer really shocked me. His answer was that, you know what I did, Shashank, during COVID? There was a lockdown. I couldn't treat patients. So I did an advanced course. I thought advanced course in dentistry. He said, no, advanced course in marketing. Okay? And my advanced course in marketing told me that if I screw up the patient and the patient's face is a little down or unhappy, make the treatment free. Indians love free. They will never complain. Okay? So what started happening was that companies like Practo and Google started coming out with transparent ratings, but there were ways to game it. And that's when Practo, we started making sure that thousands of clinics and hospitals started getting audited by us to make sure that none of the clinics that have pressure cookers can ever see a patient of Practo, right? And we call them assured clinics or Practo dental clinics. So yeah, so that's really in a crux, what brings me to work, what gives me joy is to go out in the world, find problems that makes it inconvenient, or in my language, find truths of the world that somebody is obfuscating or is hiding, right? And uncover the truth. So what are we doing now? We basically go out and promote the hospitals or clinics where the doctor is not investing in the BMW standing outside, but in the BMW that's a sterilization machine. And best have both, no problem. But don't compromise on the looks of the hospital rather than the inside of the hospital. So those are the inconveniences that I try and find every day and solve, and hopefully make it less inconvenient for people. The only people I make probably life inconvenient is my family. I have my wife, Richa, and Arjun here. So they put up with a few of my inconveniences, but my job is to go out there and find those that others are finding inconvenient and solve them. Great. So with that, I'll probably tell you a little more about what we do and my journey. So I'm Shashank. I started Practo 17 years back in college when I was in my 3rd year. I started when I was doing computer science in NITK Surathkal. This is way before the word startup was even famous in India, or rather before Modi ji, and before he made entrepreneurship as it is today, which is a lot more sexier. So back in 2008, startups were things that, at least I came from a middle-class family, so what rich families did, that's what the TV or the movies portrayed, or those who did not find a job do, or who came from a particular type of families do. I had neither, and that's when I started. So let me tell you 4 things today. And Dekyi, please let me know if I'm over time. Yeah, I'll just tell you 4 things. I'll tell you about why I started or how I started, how I got a few things right, and how I got a few things wrong, and then how I recovered from my failures. Right? Is that fair? I am hoping that through these 4 things, which is 17 years of a journey, it will hopefully share some lessons and things that I learned and could help you in yours. So today, Practo does close to about $500 million in GMV. We have, I think, close to 100 million users coming to us every year. We do more than 10 million appointments that we book. We provide software that has done 250 million appointments and so on and so forth. But it was not all this. It was, when I started, I was in 3rd year college. I had a motorcycle. I had a borrowed laptop and an internet stick. And that's how I started. And just to give you a little bit of picture about why I started, I was in college. The gist of it was that my father was in that period of 2005 and 2006, when I was in college, went into a few hospital visits. Was hospitalized between my mother and father. About 4 or 5 times they got hospitalized. And I remember this hospital called Malya Hospital. It was the Malya Hospital. And there he was getting a knee replacement done. And the doctor that was doing the knee replacement, I walked into his cabin, and a similar truth happened in those days. He gave me a piece of paper and told me that this is your dad's report. This is why he needs a knee replacement. Me and my mom had a conversation before that, and she had told me that, hey, you know what, make sure that this report goes to your uncle back in UK, US, gets a second opinion, so that then we can go and get the surgery done. And so when I got this paper from the doctor, I said, you know what, my mother told me this, can I get an email of this report? Back then, Gmail was free and you could store unlimited in Gmail. So I told him, can you please give me a copy of this on email? And the doctor looked at me puzzled, saying, you know what, Shashank, I have a Mac back in those days, a Mac in Malya Hospital. But he said, my software only has a print button. Okay? It does not have an email button, so I can't get you an email. I'm a computer science grad, and I knew that an email in that software is not more than 2 lines of code. Okay? It's precisely 2 lines of code. Just 2 lines of code would have ensured that the patient, which is me in this case, got the email, and not a physical copy. A physical copy was painful. You know, I take a photo, the reflection. I said, my dad's report, I'm going to take a photo. You know, I need to have an email button. So what did I do? I went back to college. I built a software with an email button. Wow. And I said, it took me probably about 2 weeks to build that software in college. Came back, took my Apache TVS motorcycle, rode across town, and went into doctor's chambers, said, hey, here's the software that is email button. And gave it to all of them. And the surprising part was that all of them accepted it, because they said, you know what, a lot of patients asked us for email, but my software person would never listen to that, right? And here's the email button. So what really got me going was a personal problem, right? And that was really, today, when I look back, the connecting dots of every product that Practo has launched, every product that I have launched, there's been something personal about it, which is really what has given me the ability to do it for 17 years. When I say this word 17 years, many people ask me, that's a long time. Somehow I don't feel it. I feel 17 years is too short a time. But feedback I usually get is, that's a pretty long time. And the reason why I feel that, I think that's a very short time is because I'm really in love with the problem. I'm not in love with the company. I'm not in love with the technology. I'm not in love with any other parts of the startup, whether it's the money, which really is, thereabouts, or the fame or anything else. It's really about falling in love with the problem that makes time irrelevant. It makes everything else irrelevant. Every single product I've launched since then has been about a personal problem. And that is what gives what I do a lot of depth and a lot of fuel that can, I think, go on for decades. So that was about how I started. The second part I'll talk about is about how I succeeded. So 2008 I started. This was the story. My dad, that email button, got me to build a software in 2 weeks. By the time I graduated, I had close to about 1,000 customers in 2009 paying SaaS revenue to us. And when I looked at my job placement that I had, the revenue I was making was far more than the job placement I had in 2009. So it was, even though there was a financial crisis, it was quite clear that even though I had not worked in my life anywhere, I knew that I wanted to continue doing this because this is something that solved a problem. But then it's only in 2014 that I really got success. So it was 6 years of being in the trenches. And I'll talk to you a little bit about what really led to that success in 2014. 2014 is when Practo launched its consumer-facing product, which today is used by 50, 60, 100 million users every year. For those 6 years, every single day, would wake up in the morning, go into the market, sit in the clinic, sit in the hospital, sit in the next to the doctor, and see and observe everything that's going on. What is the doctor doing? What is the receptionist doing? What is the assistant doing? I would rarely be in office. I would rarely be inside our office. And so all the time was spent in the field. And so when you're amongst the problem is when you actually get to know the solution. It's not when you're in the office or in any place else that you really get the solution. All the solutions that I have conjured up in the office has been pretty bad. All the ideas that I have gotten when in that moment, amidst the problem, amidst the chaos, is when I found the real solutions, the real breakthrough ideas. And that's what I call first principle thinking, the ability to be immersed in the problem. And so I would tell you that till now in 17 years, I've probably visited 10,000 plus clinics, hospitals, understood each and every aspect about the eye movement of a receptionist while using the software, the doctors, what he says but what he does, the patients, what do they say but what do they really mean. Those are the things that I could observe sitting in the clinics and hospitals. And doing that continues for 6 years without any appreciation from anybody, right, is what got me to success. I can remember this one moment absolutely like a picture in my memory. I had this Saturday night. Saturday night I'm in my, in the office, and I had gotten all this feedback from my customers. I remember that I was 24 years old. All my friends were, what do you do when you're 24 years old on a Saturday night? They were doing that, right? And I was sitting in a cubicle, or rather in a small room, in JP Nagar, opposite SLV Hotel, in a small little corner with one tube light on top, and I'm sitting with back then it was called Balsamic, which we prototype products on, and I was really excited. I was really happy, and I couldn't make any sense of it. I was like, why am I happy, right? Because all my friends are updating on Facebook and other this thing that how they're having the time of their life, with the money that they have made from the jobs that they had, none of it which I had, and partying and doing things that was sounding like fun things to do. But here I am in this cubicle of mine, struggling and focusing at 1 a.m. doing this product, and I was not understanding why am I happy. I should be the reverse. I should be actually cribbing or crying or being envious of others. But I was not envious of them. I was very happy about it. And that's when I coined the term and what is today our motto at the company called Do Great. I think doing great and being in that moment where you really are doing what you love doing without any need for validation, without any external stimuli, without any internal stimuli or any form of stimuli, is what I feel is doing great work. And when you do great work, you yourself know you're doing great work. And that's what gives you the satisfaction. And that's really, those were the 6 years when those Saturday nights spent at office, conjuring up a really, really good product, which I was very proud of, is what led to success. And that's what we call Do Great. And now I'll talk about why I failed. Like in life and like in anything you do, it's never this. It's a bunch of this. And so I'll tell you about one of my deepest dives I made. And that was in the year 2017. Tushar was seeing from the sidelines. We were good friends. We met just before this downturn of Practo came, or ours came. And surprisingly enough, I always thought that our down will come because we ran out of money. I thought our downs will come because we don't have enough money. I never in my life imagined that our down will come because we raised too much money. And that's what happened. We raised $250 million, $200 million. And $200 million I raised without a CFO, without an investment banker, at the age of 28 years, just by going and meeting people. That's about it, right? And so when that happened, for those 2-3 years that when we raised that money, were the toughest period of my life. So I never knew that my failure would happen because I raised too much money. But that's exactly what happened. We drifted away from the core principles of what we were working on. The first principle thinking took a sidestep. The do great took a sidestep. The finding the truths took a sidestep. Being in the market took a sidestep. What did we do? We had 5 offices. I had more VPs than I could meet. I had presentation that would tell me the truth versus instead of going into the market. I had a lot of meeting requests. I had more investors to meet than customers. And so the thing completely turned upside down. And at 28 years old, I didn't realize that what I was trading away, which was time in the market to find problems, to find those lizards, to finding those rice cookers, I gave that time away to VCs who were, sitting in a hotel or, and so on and so forth. And so those were the moments when we made the biggest mistake. we diluted our focus. We made sure that everything that we got right, we did the antithesis of that, and we were really, really close to closing up shop, and that happened, close to about 2018 or so. It wasn't that much about not having the capital that let us do that, but just that internal chaos. There were just too many forces in the company pushing the company in various directions, and I had completely lost control. So yeah, so the lesson there was don't raise too much money. Okay, money is just a resource. Just like eating too much is bad for you, a lot of money is bad for the organization. So the good thing about the world is that the world will allocate resources to you. You got to make the choice of how much resources you need. Too little is bad, too much is bad. You need to really understand what you're doing and raise what you need, not what is given to you. Mistake made by a 28-year-old, and a lesson that I have not repeated since then. So we raised 250 in our lifetime. 200 of that came in 2 years of 2016 and 2015 and 16. Since then, Practo has raised a grand total of $20-30 million, and very happy to share that Practo has been now profitable, the first digital health company to be profitable for the last 6 quarters globally. Globally, one of the first provider, the platform like ours to become profitable, and now we are scaling in India, in the US, and in many other markets. So that's about how we failed. You want to know about how we bounced back? Yes. Okay, last one, and I'm sure I'm going to hit on 10 minutes then. So how did we bounce back? So I was, as you can understand, having literally a nervous breakdown because what I had worked on for 12 years or 14 years in 2018, or maybe it was at that point in time about 10 years, was coming crashing down. In the media and the PR, we were a hit story, but internally I know the Brownian motion we were going into. There was really no movement that was happening. But through all this, I had to really figure out where did I go wrong. So the biggest thing that I did back then, which really helped me, was the introspection that I was able to do, and that was through a lot of external help. And this time, I would say that meditation, Vipassana, I tried it all. I went into every single spiritual book that was possible to put my hands onto. Anybody who could give me advice on what did I, not about business, but about myself. That's when I realized that startup is nothing but a self-purification process. Every single little ill of yours, whether it's whichever trait of yours, envy, whichever ill of yours, the startup will expose it. It will amplify it. It will make sure that it will make it 1,000% more. And if you don't overcome that aspect of yours, the personality of yours, it will kill you. Okay. And so thanks to the meditation and I would say Vipassana and a bunch of other tools I used, I was able to introspect, and then suddenly one day there were no more books required. I clearly could understand what I was getting wrong. I could clearly understand that I was actually the one destroying it. It was not money. It was not the money. It wasn't my team. It wasn't anybody else. It was myself. And so I had to stop being self-destructive, be more constructive. And then I also got to meet a few good mentors. And some of those mentors were really able to get me to see through the haze. And this was 4 or 5 years back. And since then, I think Practo has come back stronger. We are now live in, I think, 22 countries. We are going live in 30+ countries. And yeah, it's been a good run. And so let's see how it goes forward. So yes, so that was my journey. Those were the 4 things I promised you, and that's the journey that we've been on. So thank you once again for having me here, and I'll hand it back over to Dekyi. Thank you.
Thank you, Shashank. That was a compelling session. It's not every day that we see wellness, data, empathy come together so seamlessly. And yet, when they do, the impact speaks for itself. Now, continuing our journey through bold ideas and meaningful disruption. Our next speaker is a leader who has redefined how India approaches health and wellness in today's digital landscape. Tushar Vashisht is the co-founder and CEO of HealthifyMe, a platform trusted by over 40 million users. What sets it apart is how it blends intelligent tech and AI with human coaching and empathy, personalizing at scale with cultural relevance and accessibility. Tushar's journey has taken him from Deutsche Bank in Singapore to working with Government of India on Aadhaar, and now to leading one of the most influential health tech startups in Asia. A thinker, a builder, and a health advocate with both global and local insights. Please join me in welcoming Tushar Vashisht.
Guys, after that unbelievably inspirational talk, I'm not sure you need any more dose of inspiration here. Give it up to Shashank again. I know he just left. But it's just so good to be with you here today. Thank you. Thanks, Dekyi. Thanks, Mithali, and others that got me here. And I see many friends here, Zainab, others in the audience. Good to see you again. Before I begin, I'd just love to do a quick poll here to help understand you better, so I can tailor my conversation accordingly. How many of you have already started up in your journey recently or otherwise? That you're already founders, you're already doing a startup right now? Okay, amazing. That's majority of you. And how many of you are thinking about starting up? Okay, that's also nice. And within those who have started up already, how many of you are, say, more than 1,000 days or more than about 3 years in that process? Oh, fantastic. So a bunch of growth stage happening around as well. That's lovely. I thought I would talk today about agency and how that really relates with the startup life. This is an article I read recently on high agency, and I was quite inspired by it. I also could connect with it quite deeply personally and a lot of aspects about my life. How it broke down agency or having high agency is having the ability to have high bias to action, ability to be able to disagree effectively, and also to think clearly. And the article starts by, if you were in a third world jail suddenly and you were allowed one phone call, who would you call? I'd give you a moment to think about that. But generally, who you would call is likely a person with high agency, who can finagle something, craft something, figure out something, and like make things happen. And I think that trait of having high agency is really remarkable and is amazing to have as a founder. It really helps you to survive and last long. Shashank exhibited high agency during that time where he clearly was told by the doctor that that email button is not there. Right? He was able to go back in 2 weeks and have high bias to action, come back with clear thinking around it, and wasn't willing to and had ability to disagree. The doctor, just because you say I can't email doesn't mean that an email shouldn't exist, right? As founders, you always manifest things. That's a common word, manifestation. I think manifestation is really somebody with high agency doing their job. So I'd love to share, so welcome back, Shashank. I just told a story about how you exhibited high agency when you built that software within 2 weeks. So, and many people call it manifesting, many people call it having high agency, but I really relate with that phrase a lot. And a lot of my life, I believe, exhibits that and continues to do till date. And it also gives you a sense of control that, nothing is impossible, everything is possible. You can be anything, you can do anything at all times. No matter what the situation is, no matter how much money you have, no matter who's your partner, whether you have children or not, and what resources you have access to or not. As long as it's physics, laws of physics allow for something, chances are you can actually make it happen. Most oftentimes what stops us is our own barriers that we put in front of ourselves and things that we believe are out there, right? So, and breaking out of that, I think, is really the mantra for success or survival, right? Shashank has been resilient for 17 years. I've been at it for 13 years doing Healthify. But today I thought I'll tell you my journey, not really Healthify's journey, but weave in Healthify as part of that. And then story of what I'd like to believe is a exercise in exploration, in curiosity, and in exhibiting high agency. So, let me take you back to my childhood. Son of an IPS officer, a loving wife, an elder brother. I grew up in small different schools of Haryana, changed 9 schools before I hit grade 7 because dad's an IPS, was an IPS at that time. And change was the only constant. When I was in my college days in Delhi College of Engineering, really truly believed that I deserved better education. And of course, I'd heard of these Ivy Leagues and I wanted to be a part of that. But there was no easy way to get in there. I'd already started in DC and I didn't have enough money. That's when agency comes to play. And I'm like, what if there was a pathway? So I applied as an international transfer candidate to the top, literally by the top 20 schools of the US. And was lucky to get accepted by a couple. Worked hard towards building my profile, doing the things that I needed to do, took loans, got there, and transferred out in my third year to University of Pennsylvania, suddenly in the US, first time outside India, on loan, right? So it was the first big taste of success I got, that, hey, if you really manifest something or you craft something, you can go out there and achieve it, and that really your constraints shouldn't be what you believe they are, resources or otherwise, right? So that was pretty remarkable and gave me a huge boost of confidence. Same thing happened when I got there, when I was already in my sophomore year, third year, because even though I was just there, but it was still my third year and I had to, within my second month, apply for internships. And I didn't know anything about finance or consulting or any of these things. But yet, those were the professions I was more drawn to, not just be an engineer, but use engineering or tech, but to be in part of the business world. That's what I wanted to learn better in. And then I knew the trick that the only trick that I knew was that if you play the odds long enough, you're likely to hit something else, right? So I literally looked at the 150 odd applications of jobs that were out there for banking and consulting, and I applied to every single one of them. It was a lot of effort, but hey, managed to get into 10 final rounds, whatever, some X number of in-person interviews and one job offer for my internship. But that changed the game quite a lot for me, right? Within that also, I remember that in my interview in New York on Wall Street, that guy asking me that, hey, we've got people from Stanford, Harvard, and others out there. What gives you a better opportunity? You're a guy from India who's doesn't even know finance, from computer science, right? And I was like, look, all I know is I'm willing to work way harder than all those people with those entitled resumes. And sure, if I could move from Delhi College of Engineering to Penn and in front of you all within the last 12 weeks, then watch my trajectory and then see who you want to bet on. Right? And that was a craft I was able to get. I was very happy I got that job. And then I started off in corporate finance in Deutsche Bank as a full-time candidate in San Francisco. Sometimes life happens, visa, this, that. I was moved to Singapore, US, etc. But didn't really work out. Moved to Singapore within Deutsche Bank, corporate finance. But once I had paid off my loans, I was really thinking very intentionally about what I wanted to do next, right? And I knew that I wanted to work in impact and I wanted to work in India. My parents had done that. My grandparents had done that. My grandparents had also gone abroad, came back and worked in India for Indians for the longest time. And impact really drew me. It's like, that money can be made in many ways, but life is only short, and that I should try and do something. So something that's meaningful and something that impacts people. So, once again, I looked around what was going on. How can I find my way into the whatever happens in Indian infrastructure and find a way to influence that, to impact that, to integrate with that, right? And then I did, I reached out to various of my networks, right? Through dad's networks, my networks, other networks that I knew of what's going on in India. Is there a way to work in the law ministry, in the education ministry? Is there a way to work with governments? Is there a way to work with public sectors? And of course, Aadhaar was showing up at that time, Unique ID project. So, I figured if I knew anyone who knew Nandan, because at that time it was just announced that, Nandan had just presented to the Prime Minister about the concept. So it was not even a financed activity. Turns out one of my friends from Penn, his father was like neighbors with somebody who had just been recruited by Nandan. So I found a way to reach out to him and said, hey, I'd be keen. They set up a job interview. They got me to fly down to Bangalore, the first time I had been south of South Bombay in my life. And I showed up and I interviewed for 5 days with the team. They made me into they got me into a live project and eventually offered me a job saying, look, we'll cover rent and food. If you want to jump from Singapore, you're welcome to, right? And it was like a no-brainer decision in my head to quit my banking job and come work for the government for free, because it was a really exciting project, something that would have been amazing if the promise of Aadhaar came true to even being 1/10 of the promise that it would be. It would change the way we transact, we govern, we connect with the governments and ourselves. And so I made that decision in a jiffy and packed my bags, quit my job, showed up in Bangalore, and that's basically the story of how Bangalore's become home for me, just like many of us. You know, and so life, I think, has been all of these curious explorations where I've had high bias for action, where I've had the ability to disagree from what everybody else is doing around me, and have had no shame in admitting it, and have then, you know, and I've had the clarity of purpose in thinking to act on it. And I think these curious explorations is what keeps me alive as a founder every day as well. Healthify story started much like this curious exploration one day when I realized I'd moved back to Bangalore, but I had suddenly, while working with Nandan, amongst other things, I'd gained 50 pounds of weight. I gained about 25, 30 kgs of weight during that time, right? And I broke it down as to why. Like, there was clearly something off. Maybe it was all the incredible Indian food I had access to after living abroad for so long. Maybe it was the fact that there was no place really to work out, and the traffic in Bangalore is legendary, so you can't really even feel like driving to work out. Or maybe it's just a generational thing, right? And I realized that not just me, turns out that the whole world, for the first time since humans were created, we've had more people that have suddenly become more overweight than malnourished. That ratio has never twisted that way. That we were always a malnourished civilization. We were designed for hunger and famine, to store calories as fast as possible and burn them as hard as possible. But now it's not the same, right? We solved world hunger in a big way by around the late 90s, in early 2000s. And since then, urban obesity in India quadrupled. From 2000 to 2020, the world went from being 1 billion people overweight to 3 billion people being overweight. And overall, we as a civilization, we as species have turned overweight and obese. And I was just an instance of what's going on. Refined food, high amounts of calorie intake, very easily available with the press of a button, and not really much incentive or abilities to work out. Now, I was counting my calories and I was trying to track my nutrition on a Western diet format, which I was a bit familiar with, but there didn't exist anything for India. And this thing came to light specifically, well, out of another parallel curiosity pathway, I decided to go live on the poverty line. Why? Because I was working at Aadhaar for all this while for the average Indian and for the poor Indian, but I never truly could empathize with one. So one curious exploratory day, me and my co-founder sitting in the apartment thinking, man, wouldn't it be interesting if we could actually live like the average Indian and live like the poor Indian and truly understand what constraints people feel? And we figured, you know what, let's do it. We're going to do it in a pretty serious fashion over a month. We're going to track our lifestyle and our nutrition, and we will communicate it to the world, spotlighting the life of an average Indian and that of a poor Indian. And, you know, again, without much hesitation, we were like, sounds good, let's do it. Right? And we went out there and we actually lived for a month. And if you'd be curious about it, you can search 100 rupees a day, and there's a pretty significant blog on it analyzing multiple lifestyle parameters. One of them was that we couldn't really track Indian foods at that time. So, you know, we decided we should just quickly build out a small database, as any good ex-banker or a you know, finance person would do, build it in an Excel. You know, with HV lookups, and to those of you who are smiling, I know what you mean, and try to pluck out the calorie databases in an Excel sheet to just track our own nutrition values, frankly, so that we could analyze it and present it to the government. One of our core insights was, you don't get enough protein when you are poor. It's heartbreaking, but that's what creates diabetes, that creates early arthritis, that creates a low productive workforce over a long time, and a lot that we'd analyze about that. But it also helped us build this nutrition foods database. And as we showed it around in talks and seminars about our experiment with poverty, you know, people were very interested in this database. They're like, can we get access to this, please? We'd like to track our own profile for our own needs. And so it coincided with this massive obesity rise, with us trying to figure out nutrition tracking. And soon enough, you know, we turned it into a website, and we turned it into while we were thinking about turning into an app, which was new in fashion at that time, we're talking about 2012 timeframe, is when we figured that this itself could be an amazing mission to get behind. If we can stop this massive trend of obesity fundamentally propping up everywhere, and we can help this by nutrition tracking. I mean, I lost my 25 kgs of weight just by taking care of my nutrition and calorie profile. Remember, now it seems very obvious, but back in the day, it wasn't obvious that you can just count your calories and nutrition and use that to manage weight. We figured this could be an amazing mission to get behind, right? And we started to build it into an app, and the journey of Healthify started. effectively, right? Turned from an experiment into an Excel, into an app, into the company that we'd eventually become. So I think, once again, it's not like we thought about it deeply. It's not like we took a lot of time. Just had the clarity of conviction that there's a trend. We had high bias to action. And we went about it. And we were not very fearful of what will happen to the consequences. Something that has played us well through the history of Healthify, through its ups and through its downs. Right? Every startup has ups and downs. Shashank illustrated many of them. Healthify has probably run out of money 3 or 4 times in the career of our 13 years. I almost think it's a rite of passage for all founders to run out of their money. I hope it happens within the first 1,000 days because you kind of get that badge and move forward, right? You understand what that means, but it also teaches you that money is not really a constraint for survival of the mission. That's one of the factors and not the only factor in a good way or a bad way. So, in our case, the constraints showed up after 2-3 years when we raised our angel round, friends and families came together. Dr. Amrish Mittal is one of India's leading endocrinologists. He wrote us our first angel check, and we saw some validation that there is a need here. After 2 or 3 years, we ran out of money, and that forced us to innovate, forced us to think through how we can actually create a business around it. And that's when we launched our nutritionists and trainers as a service on top, because we figured that people are tracking their data, and our coaches, if they can interpret that data and provide feedback, that can deliver better outcomes. And it's something that people were willing to pay for. We tried multiple experiments before that didn't work. And I remember still, we were trying to dig ourselves out of the grave because we were out of money. I remember looking at the team and said, listen guys, from this point on, we are all volunteers. I can't afford to pay anybody for the salaries. But we've got these tens of thousands of real passionate, loving users and customers. And I'm sure we can figure this out together. So let's see if we can actually make money on our own. That was a wild 3 months when we were all out of money, and where I remember making a few sales calls to some of our clients and trying to convince them to use the services of the nutritionist sitting next to me, who would be actually designing the foods database. And soon we discovered the product market fit, the pricing around that, and there we go. We started to make some monies and became profitable and learned that we can stand on our own feet. And of course, that's when we raised our capital. We tried to scale that business pretty massively, realized that the economics don't work, and that made it pretty hard for us to actually build a successful business. So how do you go about building a profitable, scalable, successful business? You can't just build it on top of human services. That doesn't build a VC fundable business, right? So again, a problem that came up to us, and we resorted to tech to solve it. In the end of the day, I'm a techie at heart. My co-founder was a deep tech engineer. So we figured that we can probably make our coaches a lot more efficient, a lot better, a lot more supported if we can use early AI back in the day to help them do their jobs better. Can we help them build meal plans? Can we help them process responses to messages? Can we design a system that fundamentally makes it easier for our customers to track their food using a photograph, for example, rather than having to type, and that created all of the sluggishness between the transactions. So we did that. We used AI to heavily leverage, scale. That problem was fascinating. It was exciting. So we moved our gross margins from like 26% to nearly 70% over the course of that 3-4 years effort, where we used tech to scale our coaches and make this into a reasonably large scale business. Just pre-pandemic, we raised our Series C. It was a large round, $75 million round, after which we were able to do multiple things with that. We were able to scale globally. We were able to build a brand. Through COVID, really help people through the crisis by helping India eat better. We helped India lose 16 million kilograms of weight just through COVID alone, which was something we were proud of. We helped disseminate vaccines to 25 million people find their slots when that program came around. And we did multiple other pathways of curious explorations that came along the way, all in the journey and the mission to actually get people to be healthier and fitter. But these were a series of problems and issues that we faced, and we applied agency to it, right? And we never felt that times were good, times were bad. We always had our autonomy and our agency to deal with that. We've had some real blows to the stomach, obviously, when capital runs out, or as Shashank mentioned, when too much money came in and you make some bad decisions and you undo them, etc. But the fundamental curiosity to solve the problem has always been there. One thing that Shashank, I don't think, knows is that his symbol is do great. He talked to you about, sort of inspired from that, we had crafted our mission called as do the impossible, right? Because our thing was that, and the do part was, Shashank, something I was very grateful to stolen from you when I visited an office one day. But the impossible stuff is really something that excites us. If somebody tells you something is impossible, usually the first reaction is, oh, okay. But if there is a secondary thought process that kicks into your brain, but can I somehow make something happen? It could be as simple as, I don't know, the restaurant is full, or, or we can't accept your reservation, or something as profound as there's this massive tech challenge that you can't overcome. You have to figure out a way. And if you can find yourself that person who always looks at figuring out the way, looks at finding your agency, I think you'll be really set as a founder. That's something that's gotten me excited and gotten me really motivated. I'll just share on the couple of things that I'm dealing with right now, and I want to be cognizant of time and move forward. Guys, one is that something pretty significant has happened in the world for our space. The GLP-1 drugs have come into market. Ozempic, Wegovy, by Novo, you've got Mounjaro and Zepbound by Lilly. Lilly just launched them 3-4 weeks ago. And here's an exciting proposition, right? On one hand, you have medicines that can truly solve obesity, that can make you fit for sure, can make you lean for sure, not fit necessarily, but they are also with side effects. There are also issues that have to be handled through a really good companion program. We can make sure that your muscle mass remains the same. We can make sure that you can avoid those side effects. We can make sure that your weight loss remains sustainable and resilient. A whole new proposition in the world. We can either choose to be someone who ignores it, or we can choose to be someone who embraces it by both hands, right? Through scientific understanding, through research, through dedicating resources at it, through connecting with partners and ecosystems, and really embracing it, making it happen. So that's what we've been doing. Now that there is this new opportunity and the threat in front of us, that's where we've been spending a lot of our time and using our agency again to find a solution to drive a victory here. I think that in my 13 years of doing this, I started off realizing that obesity is a problem. And for the first time now, as a combination of medicine plus lifestyle therapy, it is my sincere belief that it could be maybe no more than 5 years where we can actually eradicate obesity for good. Where there are no obese people, period. Hell, I'm even willing to consider an insurance for obesity. That is that, and you can get a no-claim bonus if you're not obese. Things like these are possibilities because you choose to think, why not, right? So I'd love if there's one message I'd love to leave with you is, in life in general, is why not is an important one. And that you always have agency. You're never really back to the wall. That's just a phrase. There is no wall. It's in your head. That's how at least I have lived my life, right? This goes professionally, this goes personally as well, guys. On a vulnerable note, I was married to a lovely woman, Trista, my ex-wife, and Dekyi, I've met the honor of meeting you only because of her. And she's one of the most wonderful partners any human being can have. But as a couple, it didn't really work out for us. And we proudly underwent a divorce after a few years. And we're both very happy about that. We found other partners. I met actually my childhood sweetheart, Neha, and I have an 8-month-old baby now. And Neha and Trista is married to a wonderful partner as well. But even in a personal life, the only limited point that I wanted to tell you is there's always agency. So there is no wall. And life is an open blue sky. And I hope that for all things that you think are impossible, that you turn around to them and always see them as possible. And if you keep that attitude, I think startups are a great tool to live life and craft purpose and do things. It's a great machine to figure out things that you want to do. I'm privileged, and Shashank's privileged to do it in health. But hell, if there was any other sector that I'd want to use these crafts and tools to make things happen, startups are a great way to do so. So I hope that those of you who are already well past your 1,000-day journey, I think you're beyond the product market fit area and are scaling and growing. Whatever challenges come, money, constraints, partner doing, not doing, etc., no worries. It's all part of life as long as you find your agency and use it to craft things and are always stay curious. I think amazing things will happen. So that's my only limited message through whatever life I've been living. I still have a lot to live with it right now. And I'm excited to pursue new and interesting opportunities. And that's part of this event as well. When Dekyi called, Mitali called, I was like, why not? It'll be a huge learning opportunity. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much, Tushar, for that honest, heartfelt story. Girls, we need to applause loudly. It's not every day we get to hear the real behind the scene of building something so impactful. Thank you, Tushar. And now, let's take this conversation forward. It is my pleasure to invite someone who truly embodies leadership with insight and warmth. Our very own Chairperson Dekyi Yangtso Chawla. Dekyi is co-founder of Reward 360, a pioneering digital customer engagement and loyalty tech company, shaping loyalty ecosystem across India, Southeast Asia, and Middle East. Before her journey, she built an impressive global career with HP and Visa International, spanning Bangalore, Singapore, and Hong Kong. Please join me in welcoming Dekyi and to the stage with a warm and insightful fireside chat.
Thank you so much, Mitali. Shashank, can we have you on stage? Tushar, once again. Thank you very much. That was truly insightful, both of you young gentlemen. So I truly feel very lucky today, not only because we have two of India's most inspirational health tech founders, but because I call both of them friends, and for that I'm grateful. Thank you both for your very insightful talk. I think we all have seen their journey evolve and unfold from ideas to impact, from building apps to building movements, which is just phenomenal, and I'm really excited to delve into this fireside chat with both of you. And ladies, please dive in, listen attentively, reflect, and learn what it takes to actually build something as impactful as HealthifyMe and Practo, right? So let's begin. And of course, I'm going to punish you after this for coming late. Please stay on, girls, because we're going to actually have Tushar is a phenomenal singer. And I think these are the perks. I don't know what he would say, but I know that during COVID, right, Tushar actually, and Shashank and both of us have heard him sing. He's actually composed his own music, written his own songs. I mean, Kahani was just phenomenal. I love that song. I don't know how many of you would have heard. And while he was in Pen, he was also part of Pen Masala. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Pen Masala. And I think you were one of the, was it like a founding?
Not the founding team, but
one of the early teams, right? And I know that you still mentor Pen Masala, yeah. So we should, and we kind of moved today's time half an hour late because yesterday, I mean, this is what the world of startup is about. So there was a very urgent meeting that cropped up. So as a punishment, you'll need to serenade all of us women later with a lovely song, okay? Okay, so let's dive in. Let's begin with something a little different, something that might even get us thinking about what we've built if we could, right? What we could build if we could. If you had to build something today, not in healthcare, what problem would you solve and why? I mean, Shashank?
Oh, wow. 17 years in healthcare, you get tunnel visioned. But I remember when I started, when I was in, is this working? Hello?
Yeah,
okay.
Can you hear?
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect. So I had a small list of things that I wanted to do. And the first one was I wanted to build something which could build products for services. So I had lawyers, doctors, and education. Those are the three things I wanted to solve. This is 2007. I actually first pitched to lawyers. And when I went, I remember Sankey Tank, and there was a lawyer just behind Sankey Tank. And I went to his saying, this is a beautiful product. I coded up and love to show it to you. He asked me, where's the terms and conditions? Right? He said, I want to see the T&Cs first. I kid you not. True story. He said, show me T&Cs. And I said, why T&Cs? He said, I can give you the T&Cs, so why don't you get the T&Cs done first, then I see the product. Then I realized, what if they sue me, then, doesn't work out. Then I went to doctors. And so if it was back in 2008, I'd have probably done education because that was what I was passionate about. But today, I think education has come a long way. EdTech has done a great job. today, if I had to do something, there's no doubt it would be in AI. I think AI has been, I know it's a cliched thing to talk about, but it is truly something I've never seen a living organism like this before. It seems alien. We use it every day at work. We have now built AI doctors, etc. And just the truly transformational thing that AI can do, I think I would use that to figure out. What I find really disconcerting right now is that we are now bombarded with information. And I don't know how many of you stayed up late night, but one of the days in which India-Pakistan war was going on, I stayed up late night because there were talks of Karachi being burnt up. There were talks of India entering the. I was like, oh my God, there's all this happening. And next day morning, I realized that all of it was fake. Yeah. So I think disinformation is a big problem. How do we use AI to make sure that humans can, at a very general level, get to max productivity and information that can actually empower you? Because if you open in NDTV and you open dawn.com, I don't know how many of you know Dawn is the website of the leading publication in Pakistan. The exact news that we put, the alternative is there. We built our port, they burnt our port, right? 3 aircrafts, there are. Like it's just, what is the truth here? And so I find it very disconcerting that my children will grow up in a world where they don't know what to believe because both sides of the story are there now. So yeah, that's what I would do to solve.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, while it's imperative that we adopt to AI, I think governance is something which is questionable, and I truly hope that that is done right. Yeah. So over to you, Tushar.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny as it is. Of course, it'll be in AI right now. In fact, in general, if we're not doing anything with AI right now, I guess, what are we doing really? It's the greatest tool to have in our lifetime. It's a pleasure to be in this time when we have this powerful intelligence as a service, available that we can use to make differences. Of course, I get to play with it at Healthify quite a lot. But if I had to pick another sector, I'm very passionate about parenting right now. So, Neha often jokes with me that, it's me, Neha, and AI that co-parent Nushki. Sometimes it's said lovingly, sometimes it's said, ChatGPT to meri sauth hai. So it goes into a very negative territory also. But yeah, right from, her feeding routines to her engagement to her, music environment, entertainment, physical activity, well-being, overall, there's so much you can think about what can be a great parenting experience or what can be a great child experience. Now, she's only 8 months old, but it's been a joy to really use AI to be a super parent, and I think it can be done so much more intentionally. I already know of so many other parents who are using AI to build stories for their children and craft amazing things, right? So how can you use AI to provide fundamentally incredible parenting and therefore learning experience for kids is something I'm just excited and passionate about. I am solving it on my own for my child, and I'm like, it'll be amazing if I could just share this with the world, that here's how you could possibly parent better. It's like me wanting to share that Excel sheet with others, so that's been exciting.
That's true, but you also have the third woman, right, Ria?
Yeah, Ria's our AI agent. Yeah,
that's Healthify's agent.
But Ria's not meant to be a parent. Ria's meant to be a nutritionist and a coach. But I'm crafting my own agent of a parent in my way.
No, but even on ChatGPT, I mean, of course, for me, my son is 20, so I don't need to tell him bedtime stories. But for my little nieces, it's fascinating. If I tell ChatGPT, and now I've taught them, and they actually tell ChatGPT, like, can you narrate a story where my younger sister is drowning and I will save her? And can you put in illustration? And it actually comes up in like womb. And I'm so happy because honestly, as you age, I mean, there is all that compassion and all that, but patience with kids is it's really sweet. Say hi, love, all of that. But, to actually sit and think of a story and all of that is, so that idea, I hope it comes up with a new business idea. You never know. Okay. Anyway, my second question, so both your platforms deal with wellness, but you also had to create viable, scalable businesses, right? So what were the toughest choices you made between idealism and realism?
Yeah. Already shared a bit of, the journey of what we got wrong. But one of the things that when you ask this question comes to mind is, I remember this Diwali in 2017 We had launched Practo. We had close to about 1 lakh doctors. Nobody in India had 1 lakh doctors on their platform. And the way we got these 1 lakh doctors was that we had, before even Google My Businesses or etc. in 2015, we had people going down streets. And before this, Google had this car that actually automated it. We used to have a bike rider who would go in every lane and take photographs of the clinics. And so even before Google did that, we did that. And we had a 1 lakh doctors. Even the government of India didn't have that real-time data that we had. The problem we faced, so because of the 1 lakh doctors, within 2 years, from 2014 to 2016, we went from 0 to 100 million users a year, right? 0 to 100 million users finding doctors, because that's such a innate need that people had, especially where there's migrant population. You move to a new city, you don't know what's available, you need to know. So we had these doctors, and the problem we faced was that the government of India did not tell us which are the doctors that are genuine and not genuine, right? So there was no API that I could go to and state and say that, okay, this doctor is genuine, not, because the truth is that 50% of doctors in India are fake, okay? 50%. And they claim to do things that they can't do. So they'll tell you that, okay, like recently there was a cardiologist in Jharkhand, I know it's not, who got arrested because he was doing open heart surgeries. He didn't even have the qualification, and many people died. So that's a very common thing in India. It's not a very uncommon thing. Just that, people don't know healthcare, that they just say, oh, you know what, a person died, he died. But actually the person not even qualified to operate. So the problem we face is because when you're offline and when you're in this one part of Bangalore, it's okay. But when you're in Practo, any doctor could go on and see every other doctor. So we had a barrage of issues from doctors saying that, hey, how are you listing that doctor? That doctor doesn't have a degree. But we're like, but he told us he has a degree. And we have this photo, but he's like, this photo is fake. And we have no way to verify it's fake or not. So this is where you have realism and this thing to come in that, hey, what do you do? Do I bring on my website? But there are so many people I'm helping. And so that's the idealism versus realism problem statement. And I would be the butt of all jokes in doctor communities. I would have WhatsApp sent across. And the worst part was, on one side, the funding news was coming along, right? Yeah. Practo is 200 million, right? And on the other side, there's this fake, there's this doctor group that was talking about saying, oh, there's this richest man in India, that's running around, but he's doing it by listing fake doctors. So the only thing I could remember was, Diwali after Diwali, we used to sit, I remember this Diwali specifically because the whole Diwali event, sitting in office, trying to clean up this data, right? Trying to figure out, and 1 lakh doctors is not easy. And then in different parts of India, and if you remove everybody, then nobody benefits. So it took us a lot of effort, and we then built something called as the White Book, where we then mapped every single specialization saying, okay, if you are a dermatologist, or let's say if you are a diabetologist, which all degrees can you call yourself a diabetologist? Such things are not available. Even today, for example, whether a counseling psychiatrist should be a doctor or not is a huge debate. Should it, it's a huge, of course not for us, but in the doctor community, it's a huge debate. And we are the people in between that and actually have to put it out. So I would say that, it's in those times where you have to just think about the greater good. You have to think about what is the right thing to be done, and just deal with it. So that's the memory that comes back to me when you ask that question.
Tushar?
There are so many lessons to be learned just in what Shashank shared. Let me give a different spin on the whole thing is that, in a startup life, you have many cases where you get faced with harsh realities. That just happens all the time, right? So to those of you who are already doing it, all well know that there is a lot of pain behind the glory that you face all the time, right? Out of the one funding news that Shashank had or I had, there were the 100 no's, and every single one of them does hurt to take on your face, right? Or difficult situations that you are in for sure. But I think in Healthify, at least we've managed to convert a lot of our realisms into idealisms almost. Like we've added a sense of levity to them, and we've kind of joked about them and made fun of them all the time. So that just kind of gets us by. I remember this time we weren't getting this meeting with a doctor who was just incredible, very senior endocrinologist in Delhi. We were trying to partner. So my way to basically get access to him was literally to go to the urinal and pee next to him, finally, as a way to talk to him about it, and then, go out there and secure a meeting. Right now, some may say, oh my God, hardship, poor guy struggling all day in heat, not getting meeting. But I was like, this was pretty funny. This is how I got the deal. So we make these legends and stories and keep a light attitude towards a lot of these realism things. I remember when we ran out of money the first time, well, it was a difficult thing for me as a founder, but as a team, we were having a blast. Right? We were like, yeah, dekhte hain, we can make money, we'll live from it, and somehow we'll do with it. Some of the areas which have hurt, however, are where you expect. I think the one unfortunate piece that I deal with as a contradiction is that life should be fair, and we all know life is not fair, right? It's not fair, but that's how I guess I have grown up to be. That hey, life should be fair, and then when you expect if you're doing good things and if you're fair to others, the same thing will happen to you. Is this just that's not something you should live by, but that's an idealism versus realism that I oftentimes struggle with. You know, if you are fair to other board members or to other investors or to other ways, you expect the same back. Like that doesn't happen, right? So the faster you get used to it, I think the better it is. But somewhere I think I still remain too idealistic there.
That's true, because that's, I think, the constant founder dance, right? You have vision on one side, viability on the other, and in somewhere in between is the business model that doesn't, that allows you to sleep or, or have a soul.
And the reality is the more, genuinely, the more against dopamine that you're trying to build a business, the harder it is. There's no doubt about it. But the greater the fulfillment will be. What I mean by is, if you'd like to build a very commercially successful business, some of the best businesses you can build are likely to be, things to do with giving sugary foods or things to do with watching movies or, smoking or alcohol or anything that enhances dopamine rushes, right? Things that are the other way around, trying to get people to be actually healthy is like remarkably hard, or trying to get people to be educated or trying to go against the dopamine rush, right? Against evolution. Evolution wants us to have these dopamine hits. So that's a choice. It's an active choice you can make. You can build a tobacco company, you can build a health company. Like, choose.
I think that's why a lot of us FLO women are very intelligent that way, because we have a lot of bakers here. Yeah. So, okay, my next question. Founders often get the spotlight, but a startup's success depends heavily on the team behind the scenes. What were the key traits you looked out for while building your early team, and how did you consciously shape a culture that could survive both scale and storms?
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic question. And this is one of the things that's close to my heart. Sort of the 17 years I've spent, I started with two other people. One of my all three of us have spent 17 years and still at Practo. The average tenuity in my core team, which is about 15 people, is more than 10 years.
Fantastic.
We have, I think, everyone stayed back. And the ones even who, we decided to, like, I think there are about 5 people who are about 15 years, there are about 8 or 10 people, 10 out of 15 people are about 10 years, right, in the organization. And these are, also from prestigious places. It's not just that, they have a lot of choices. Any one of them in my team could go out and raise money, start a startup very easily. And many of them who moved out have actually done that. So, so the two new people who joined my team are the people who had CEO offers. So they took a CXO offer instead of a CEO offer to come in. So I think this is the most important thing. After finding the problem and identifying a solution, that the team is what makes you and breaks you. You can be you can be on the stage, you can be here, but the team is the one that's driving things. So the way I did this, and I hold this very close to my heart, is that it's very important that everybody feels like a founder. You're not, if the company feels like there's one founder, you're probably screwed. So in my entire leadership team of 15 people, I make sure that everybody in there feels like a founder. So there is no way that they can go home and say that, if I was a founder, I've done this. There's no way. That question cannot come in, because they all are worthy founders. It just so happens that I found this problem before. It just so happens that I came in before them. So that's how I take it. So just to give some examples of what I do, we have a Monday morning ritual where we have what we call the management meeting. I'm sure all of us might have that, and have been doing this for the last 5 or maybe 7 years. Every single metric in the company is visible to all the 15 of us. So the finance team comes and presents to me with front of everybody. So I get the information at the same time everybody else gets it. So there's no information arbitrage between me and my team. There's zero. In fact, they probably know a little bit more than I do about my entire company. So it's not like this business head only knows about his business. This business head knows the entire company. including how much cash did we lose last month, to how much cash did we make last month, to salaries, no, not of individuals, but how much did we pay in salaries, to how much did we pay, how much did Shashank spend, right? How much is Shashank's flight tickets to the US or to, like every single detail is available to the top 15 people. The 3 finance guys, the controller, the BizFin, and the CFO come and present to me at the same time as all the 15 of us. And then all the 15 of us can actually ask questions, to the CFO saying, hey, this, the profit came down, what happened? And they can say, Shashank did this, right? In front of 15 people, so everyone's accountable. That really brings in a lot of ownership. And I did this from 8 years back, and what I realized is even salary increments is discussed in this 15-member team. I let my team decide what the salary increments for the year is. Right? I might disagree with them, but I'll say, it's fine. If you do the salary increments, this is what happens to the P&L. You're okay with it? Let's do it, right? And so that brings in a huge level of, they cannot go home and complain that, I was not taken into account. And so, so that's how I run the team. And that way, what I've noticed is that people, and at the same time, there's no 3 people who are deciding, and there's 50. All of us decide together, right? No matter whether you have 25 years of experience or 20 years or 15 years, everyone is one team. And that one team philosophy, one Practo, one team, really goes a long way in making sure there's zero politics. There is, the only reason people have moved out of Practo is that they have had enough of healthcare. Okay, they're like, bahut ho gaya tumhara healthcare. I need a break. This is too intense for me. 2, the company's trajectory is too fast, and I have just had a kid. I've just had XYZ personal development. I can't put in the hours you need. Or the skill sets that I have are no longer relevant for the company that is, and so I don't want to hold the company back. These are 3 reasons. There is no other reason that we have lost talent for so far in the top leadership team.
That's fantastic. Tushar.
Vinod Khosla is one of our investors, Khosla Ventures, and he oftentimes says the company is the team you built. And it is absolutely true. And I concur with many things that Shashank said, including the rituals around transparency. I, on the other hand, have had 2 or 3 versions of these teams through the course of these 13 years. And what I have seen is that each of those versions represented what Healthify was at that time, geared for what mission? Was it geared for growth, or was it geared for profitability? Was it geared for a global expansion outlay, or was it geared for India? Or was it, depending on what constraints we were facing? I think one thing that's been reasonably common throughout is growth mindset, which again ties in very well with the high agency piece, that if faced with a wall, what will you do? Will you go around it? Will you find a way to jump over it? Or do you just not see a wall and it's in your head? So I think that growth mindset and that high agency piece is still a good character that we judge people by. Ability to think on feet and do it. And they are sometimes with high bandwidth and sometimes they're low bandwidth. So that represents what level they need to be, right? Can they handle a very wide bandwidth of efforts or a low micro bandwidth? But generally they should be all high agency with high growth mindset. And that has worked out well for us so far and continues to, I think. In short, that's what I'd like to answer.
That's fantastic. And I honestly, I truly believe that people join for the organization, but they stay for the culture, right? And it's not about just buying a ping pong table, keeping it there, and that's how they're going to retain people, but it's all about purpose, right? And what you mentioned about transparency, growth mindset. I mean, this is something that we at the executive committee level over here at FLO as well, we're trying to translate this to every member, saying this year it's all about having a growth mentality, a growth mindset, an innovative mindset, a venture mindset. And it's not about just starting if you have to start a business, you need to have a venture mindset or innovative mindset. No, it's all about how can you do things better, faster, more uniquely, even at your home as well, right? So I think that's really, really imperative. So, because we are falling short of time, I'm going to skip some of the questions also because you've addressed it in both your presentations separately. And I thought we'll quickly kind of shift gears because since you've already unpacked the philosophy, the failures, and the fuel, I thought we'll switch gears and have a little bit of fun. Okay, and do a rapid fire round, but even the rapid fire round, girls, I'm sure your answers will spark a lot of wisdom as well, right? So let's start. This is very much like Karan Johar's, okay? Coffee with Karan, and you'll have the hamper as well. Okay. So, one app on your phone you cannot live without. And don't mention Practo, don't mention HealthifyMe.
Okay, you say Practo, I'll tell you.
That sounds like a good plan. Besides Practo, I'm addicted to WhatsApp. I just need to figure out some way around it. So.
And so, apart from Healthify, it's X. I think Twitter is an addiction right now.
So my husband is addicted to X and I'm addicted to WhatsApp and Instagram and a lot of other apps, okay? And HealthifyMe and Practo, no. I will be, of course. Anyway, morning person or a night owl? And yeah.
Night owl for me, for sure.
Oh, I'm a morning person.
Yeah.
So I can do 4, 5, 3. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
I can do the same, but from the other side.
And has it always been that way?
It's been always been that way.
Yeah, nocturnal and early morning.
I was the reverse.
Okay.
And so it's just been better clarity these days. Maybe age is
With
catching
early
up.
morning, yeah. And what do you think is the biggest misconception people have about startup founders?
They are extremely boring people. Okay, they are usually miserable during vacations, and they are at least I am. And so yeah, so we are very interesting in very small dimension.
Okay.
That's what I believe.
So
But
the
knowing his talents,
so
I think
the
is very different.
misconception is they are boring.
No, the misconception is that they are
They are
supposed to be
fun.
interesting and
Ah,
fun.
okay.
But it's because of the discipline that's required. It's a little bit on the other side for
Sure.
me at least.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm much more easily distractible than Shashank is in multiple dimensions. However, I think the misconception that I would like to believe is that, that founders are successful. That's not literally not true. I mean, that 90% of the companies will fail,
Yeah.
as we know.
Yeah.
And even those that succeed for a point in time, right? 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, hell, 200 years. But then it's
Yeah.
all, I mean, it's something you drive within a certain space and time to architect a certain mission, right? And it's not necessary that everybody will make money from it. People, founders will be crazy rich. That's not true. That will be successful. That's not true.
Sure.
But it allows you great agency to architect that vision during that space and time. That's for sure. That's true. But I think most founders, from a social definition, will be a failure. So, but from your own definition, you'll be a success.
Okay. So what would you tell your 20-year-old self in one sentence?
Be kind to yourself.
Okay.
My 20-year-old self was a crazy guy. But I think I would just tell him, to prepare to be resilient. That it's going to take a lot longer, a lot more money, and a lot more effort than you possibly think it will. But stay at it. It's going to be great.
Okay, this is interesting for me. So if your startup was a Bollywood character, who would it be and why?
So, amongst other random trivia about me, guys, I don't kill me for it. I don't really watch much Bollywood or cricket. So I'm like a bad Indian, therefore, But Shashank, go first. I'll come for a second.
Oh, this is a tough one. I think I really like really like method actors. So Irfan Khan and the funny guy, the Pankaj something.
Tripathi. Yeah, he's very
Tripathi,
good. Yeah. So you can imagine him with Practo, building Practo. I don't think so.
More being more fascinated with the craft than the glamour.
It's a good one. I think inspirational from that is that Amir Khan in Three Idiots would be pretty cool. He's would be like a good Healthify personification.
Yeah.
He's a tinkerer, is a growth mindset guy, is a hacker, figures out things, is understated, but it's pretty cool.
Nice. I will be sure to tell them that. Okay. So one woman, alive or from history, you'd love to build a business with.
Dekyi, of course. Who else? That was easy. That was back on.
Okay, hamper goes to Tushar. Shashank,
No.
you have to up that.
Okay, I think she couldn't be here today, but one of the inspirations for me has been my mother. She's traveling, so my mom was a busy one at home. She was doing a corporate gig. I think she went back to work 2 weeks. I mean, at least the myth says that she went back to work 2 weeks after having me. So yeah, she's been quite an inspiration for me, and one of the reasons why I have the work ethic or the clarity of thought, seeing her, the way she operated as a professional.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, the health fad you secretly believe in. Ozempic, don't say, huh?
I actually, it's no secret. I do believe that there is a role for medication plus lifestyle, and I don't think it's a fad.
Okay. It's
half of us will be on it in the next 12 months.
Okay.
Promise me. And I can talk about that in a different time. But the fact that I really am is in optimizing my sleep, interestingly, and I've been going a bit crazy about it. So, right from magnesium supplementations to really intentional thought around when you go to sleep and how you go to sleep and how the sleep was. It's something that I'm just curious to optimize. I've realized if I sleep well, I'm just a much better human being.
Sure.
So, and when I don't, I'm not fun to be around. So,
then you'll have to follow the circadian rhythm.
Circadian
and night
rhythm.
owl
I'm
doesn't happen.
I'm throwing a bunch of things at it.
Okay.
Night owl still happens, but I'm optimizing for the time that I'm asleep.
Sure.
Like, am I sleeping well or not, right? Am I eating well before I go to sleep? Which has resulted in massive decrease in alcohol intake, etc. So, but anyway, that's a fad I'm into, guys.
I mean, I think now I work out 6 days a week. So that's been, I think, the days I don't work out is only Sundays. So it really adds to a lot of energy and, the dopamine release that really helps.
Sure.
I
Wonderful.
think it's a fad, but the only other thing I think of is skipping breakfast. I think that's a fad. I don't have data for that. I
Right.
skip breakfast every day, but I don't know whether that's really a good thing or a bad thing.
The intermittent fasting, is it? Sure. Okay, so last question, since it was Mother's Day very recently, and we have a lot of mommies over here. What's the last WhatsApp forward you received from your mother? Because I used to receive a lot of those cats saying good morning and sometimes good nuggets of wisdom, but
No, it's just I'm just weird and lucky in the sense that I don't get WhatsApp forwards from my mom, but I do get a lot of complaints around call me back. I literally made a song called "Main theek hoon maa" for that. "Main theek hoon maa," because that's just the way you used to sign your letter off. That "Main theek hoon maa," and that. So it's a whole thing about it. So I'm trying to be a better son. I'm clearly not.
I have parents where the dad is the one who does the WhatsApp forwards. So my mom is more very factual and very fact oriented. So I called her up today morning and I have the reverse problem. I call her up and she doesn't answer the phone. And so I was like, this is very weird because she always answers the phone, and then I get a message off to Tirupati with her brother and sister. So that's the last message I got from her.
So thank you both for not just what you've built, but how you've stayed grounded while building it. And you've shown us that building anything meaningful, be it a business, be it a habit, or a mindset, I think it takes resilience, it takes purpose, and also a good sense of humor, which is really, really important. And I'm sure everyone in this room is also leaving with a little more courage and a lot more resilience as well. And please do share your feedback on what are your key takeaways when we are stepping out for high tea in a bit. Let's open it up for Q&As from the audience.
We have exactly 3 questions. And the first question from Priya.
Candid and inspiring. Thank you so much. My question is for Tushar. What advice do you have for young entrepreneurs as they compete in the business world of plenty? Example, multiple players competing in the same space, marketing platforms, funding, etc.
It's actually really encouraging if there are multiple players competing in that space. It means that there is a market that's already pretty vibrant and there is a consumer need where at least you're not fishing. Like when we started Healthify, it wasn't obvious that calorie counting is a need. So we were waiting for market to catch up, right? But if there is a pretty well-established market, it almost makes it easy. The whole classic, your margin is my opportunity, or your product experience is my opportunity. So if you can think about your experience design or your cost structure, that is 10x better than what is today possible. And you have your own insight as to why you can do that, and you deeply understand the customer problems and recraft it, then there is always amazing opportunity. So competition is great. There should be no reason to hold off. And my only advice would be is to launch and to launch ASAP. Like there is no reason something can't be launched in like a couple of weeks. Much like, Shashank did, much like I started that Excel. I think somebody said, I think Vinod only said this, that the biggest reason most founders fail is because they don't start. That overrides everything else. 90% of us will have ideas that we'll think and then didn't act. So, yeah.
Hi Tushar, hi Shashank. My question is to Tushar. HealthifyMe has blended AI and human coaching effectively. What were some of the hardest product decisions you had to make?
Bluetooth mode.
It was not Bluetooth mode.
Okay. What were some of the hardest product decisions you had to make to scale responsibly? And how do you see generative AI transforming the future of preventive healthcare?
It'd be a long answer if I had to give it justice, but I'd give it in a short way. Is that we always, even now, like there is an incredible saying: do things that don't scale and then scale them, right? So AI is a great example of that. Like initially we started with raw, brute human coaching experience, etc. Learned from that, built system pathways around that would then inform our AI to help them and eventually give birth to a direct-to-consumer AI. So do things that don't scale. Initially, you could throw humans at it, you can throw systems at it, and then say, okay, now that I've found a product market fit, let me see on how I can use technology to scale it. Then AI will really help there. Generative AI is changing everything. It's changing the way I'm preparing emails to making board decks, to thinking about parenting, to driving my company, to building our app. But I think particularly within our app, Snap has been a huge hit in our consumer adoption, which means you can take a photo to track your calories now. It's a much faster paradigm than earlier. Voice has been a good paradigm, so multimodality, that you can just track things. And also the fact that you can answer a lot of your questions through an AI agent that's right there. So you don't have to necessarily invoke a human being to be there for things that are more knowledge or things that are more structured in nature. So you use the human being for what the humans are best for, which is empathy, which is accountability, right? Those kind of things are are very hard for AI to get better at.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we have a question from Anita Makaria.
Soundcheck. Good evening, everyone. And I'm Anita Makhuria from Shubhkamna Events and Experiences. As a part of the social responsibilities, I'm on the ethics committee of the Rainbow Children's Hospital. So, Shashank, I would like to hear from you and understand from you that building trust in healthcare is non-negotiable. We agree to this part. How did you balance scale with sensitive responsibilities of handling medical data and clinical reliability?
These are things that keep me up at night. So, when we started in 2008, the biggest problem we had was we started online.
Power on. Bluetooth mode.
All right.
Who is that?
So with 2008 launch, we were online, and so all health records were online. We were one of the first ones to put health records online. And so the only question me and my co-founder were really petrified of is, what if the data leaks? We today have close to about 3 trillion health records, in terms of individual components, and that is the data that powers our AI.
On.
But that's a
Bluetooth mode.
real difficult task to be able to safeguard those. And luckily, touch wood, we've been very
Power
safe
on.
with that. The second problem that we
Bluetooth
faced
mode.
was that it was challenging to have this data, but respect providers' TNCs. Right? It was very easy for anybody in my company to go into the database and see the data. Of course, our TNC said you can't, but we could have anyway done that. But till now, never has Practo or any Practo employee accessed the private records of a consumer or the provider even though it's technically feasible, it's never been done because we have audit trails on that. So we did ISO certification. So we tried to make sure that internally the culture of the company, the ethos of the company, the business model of the company, and right from the top, I used to have a thing, don't send me to jail list. So I would circulate this. If you do these things, I go to jail. Okay? So please don't do this. So things like this to just make sure that people understand that it's not a 2-year sprint. It's not a 5-year sprint. The name Practo has to forever be synonymous with trust, like how Apollo is, or like Manipal, or like Rainbow. It's with each interaction and no downfall. Right? That's how trust is built. So that's what we did. And we continue to try and make sure that every action we take is backwards from trust, because that's the numerator that actually gets you future revenues. That's what hospitals are built. That's why good doctors is where everybody goes to. That's what we've been inspired by.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and we have one last question. Shalini, who would you like to ask? Shalini is a nutritionist, and she has a question. Yeah.
Power on.
Girls,
Bluetooth
don't leave.
mode.
We're going to have Tushar serenade us. Don't forget that. I've not forgotten that.
I had a GLP compliance program. We give support to people who are on GLP. I'm a nutritionist.
Oh, fantastic.
It's a 5-pronged approach with 5 specialists. I want to understand and get help from you to understand how AI or Healthify can support someone who's on a GLP or support a program like mine.
Oh, wow. This again is going to be a long answer if I do justice to it. But maybe we can take this offline in some detail. I'll give you the short of it. Right now, we are actually deliberately avoiding AI integration with GLP. However, this is something that we will do in the next 12 months. Right now, we're again doing things that don't scale before we scale them. So I am leading my own model. We have actually integrated US registered dietitians that are on our payroll along with Indian registered dietitians to basically craft a really strong program that maximizes outcomes and minimizes dependence on the drug. So we try to deliver the same outcomes at half the drug capacity by adding in good integrative nutrition programming, good integrated lifestyle programming, strength training. We also add enhance enough amount of protein supplementation, for example, to ensure that you don't lose muscle mass, right? And we also add in significant, very tailored, titrated strength training programs. And we're also using some other combinatorial therapies besides the GLP-1, like we're experimenting with metformin, CGMs, and other things as part of that. So the integrated therapy design that we're looking at looks at multiple vectors. In short, however, from a nutrition standpoint, I'm sure you already know it, is that focusing on the right amount of protein, electrolytes, and other micronutrients are extremely critical. Focusing on gut health is very, very important, to avoid side effects. How can AI play a role? Once, guys, we know these pathways. Like, for example, I'm so proud to say that none of our GLP customers in this last 4 weeks since we've launched it, we've had a few dozen people who are on it. Not a single one has lost any muscle mass. Right? So while people have lost 2 kgs on an average in 3 weeks, people have lost 0 muscle mass, right? It's only increased, for example. And we are testing that right now. We're building we're building a white paper that we're going to hopefully release soon. Once the golden pathways on that get designed, and once we know what pathway and interventions play out good outcomes at lowest side effects, that can be then programmed into our AI pathway. So we are literally building an AI feature called Path. That we're going to release in 6 months, but that will mimic and understand what the golden pathways are to truly build an AI companion, right? So, correct, systems and humans first, learn, experiment, improve. By the time you have clinical efficacy, white papers, trial data, utilize AI, and that's how you scale. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to you, Shreya.
The stories we hear shape the people we become. The personal journeys you guys have taken out time for to share with us. Shashank, where you spoke about how startup is a self-realization process. And I love the fact, Tushar, that you said, if you are hit against a wall, what are you going to do? And that's going to be your real motto, your real go-to in life to achieve what you need to do next. They were absolutely impressive and thought-provoking and filled with powerful takeaways and a renewed ambition. Tushar, Shashank, thank you so much for taking this time to be here with us today and generously sharing your experiences, insights, and wisdoms. A special thank you to Dekyi for moderating the session so brilliantly, warm, thoughtful, and seamless as always. May I now invite Mrs. Rati and Jayashri Menon to please hand over some gifts for the speakers. These gifts have been sponsored by Hivado. It's a premium men's personal care brand built on performance, precision, and science-baked formulations. We also have a small little token from 108 Bespoke. It's a high-end customized wear for men's and women's wear brand. And Seed Delights that offer healthy handcrafted delights like energy bars, seed mixes, flavored nuts, and more to bloom your lifestyle. All of these are FLO members who started these brands. May I also request Dekyi to give Friends of FLO certificate to Tushar and Shashank, please?
Yes.
Let's give a big cheer to the team behind the scenes and made it possible. Please can we have the whole back-end team on stage for a picture? And also last but not the least, a heartfelt thank you to our sponsors Marzi and Anand Sweet for their continued support. And to our lovely audience, you guys have been absolutely brilliant, patient, energetic, attentive, and fantastic. Thank you so much for being here today.
And
please can we have the back-end team for a picture?
And now it's time for Tushar to serenade us with a quick, catchy number.
I don't know about catchy or not, but given that it's a founders forum in a way, I thought about it. I thought you'd do this to me, Dekyi.
Yeah.
So I thought I could sing a couple of lines that I really resonate with a lot, that I think describes our founders journey. It really, especially when we get no's from partners and from VCs, right? Just raise your hand if you understand Hindi broadly. Yes. Oh, okay, perfect. So this is from Mirza Ghalib. There's a couple of lines, and I'd love to sing that for you. It's from, it was originally sung by Jagjit Singh. हर एक बात पे कहते हो तुम कि तू क्या है. After a time we face with this situation where people ask us har ek baat, and then so we have to. तुम ही कहो कि ये अंदाज़े गुफ्तगू क्या है. रगों में दौड़ने फिरने के हम नहीं कायल. We are not just capable of running around the cardiovascular system. We do more than that. रगों में दौड़ने फिरने के हम नहीं कायल. जब आँख से ही न टपका तो फिर लहू क्या है. तुम ही कहो कि ये अंदाज़े गुफ्तगू क्या है. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.